Okay, shut up, you guys. I want to talk about the monkey movie. The other one. I can't believe 2 out of 4 of the videos I've made this year have been about monkeys, although someone was very quick to point out that in Better Man, Robbie Williams is an ape, not a monkey. So my bad. We can't all be zoologists. Some of us are out-of-work actors. Guys, I just looked it up and you're not going to believe it. The toy monkey as depicted in The Monkey is actually designed after a chimpanzee, which is an ape, not a monkey. If even the monkey in The Monkey is not a monkey, how on earth am I supposed to trust that anything is or isn't a monkey? But we're not actually here to talk about monkeys. We're here to talk about death. The Monkey is a new horror film based on the 1980 short story by Stephen King. Now, if you don't know, Stephen King is kind of the anti-George R.R. Martin in that we can't get him to stop writing. He's completed 65 novels and novellas, 200 short stories and counting, as well as other works, and we only have some idea how he churns it out so fast. Within the field of horror, he has explored an array of subject matter, some that are seemingly mundane, such as washing machines, and others that are a little more obviously bone-chilling, such as children. The subject of this story is a monkey, chimpanzee, simian. This monkey brings about the horrific death of anyone in its vicinity each time the key on its back is turned. It itself does not murder anyone, it just does a cute little drum solo, and then someone dies. In this way, the antagonist of the film is not the monkey itself, but death. Now, you might say that in horror movies, the enemy is always death, but this death isn't regular death. It's a cool death. And in typical millennial fashion, when I say cool, what I mean is totally random. In most horror movies, death is strategic. Death is plotting. Once death sets its eyes on you specifically, it doesn't let up. Sometimes it takes the form of a stalked masked killer like Michael Myers hiding in your doorway, or Freddy Krueger patiently waiting you to fall into a deadly slumber. Sometimes death doesn't need a man to hide behind. In movies like Final Destination, death isn't some otherworldly monster, but the same invisible force that comes to us all. But that doesn't mean it won't hold a grudge against you specifically. In short, in horror films, we are used to death being synonymous with fate. Today, we're going to get into what the monkey does differently and whether its more arbitrary version of death is scarier or more comforting than others. Our story begins when the titular toy monkey is found by 2 young brothers, Hal and Bill. It only takes a few grisly incidents for them to realize there is some connection between this ugly little beanie buddy and the ensuing carnage. And it only takes a few more incidents after that for them to decide they should get rid of it. You see, because these are little white boys with big feelings, both of them individually do try to go full Death Note as soon as they realize the monkey's power. Hal attempts to off his bully brother Bill and instead causes the death of their mother. Bill, once he realizes the monkey's power, tries to confirm and test its abilities, which leads to the death of their uncle. Only then did they decide it is probably best to get this monkey out of their lives. Right away, Hal is portrayed as the good twin, kind-hearted, sensitive, bullied, while Bill is the cruel brute. And while Hal is incredibly put upon by his brother, it's actually not any inherent kindness that sets him apart from Bill. It's that he's willing to quickly learn and accept the monkey's limitations, which is primarily that it doesn't take requests. This is not Death Note 2 Electric Boogaloo. You turn the key, anyone dies, and you get what you get and you don't get upset. Hal isn't morally above using the monkey as a tool, he just recognizes that it's impossible to do so, and as such, the monkey is something to be feared. Meanwhile, Bill is far more ruthless, not only in his disregard for human life, but in his desire to understand and control the monkey. He immediately starts hypothesizing and almost negotiating rules with the monkey. He posits that the person who turns the key will never be the person killed. For a while, it seems like this could be true, but at the very end of the movie, it's proven false, and it was just luck of the draw that we had never seen a turner killed until then. Or plot armor. It is implied that the monkey does work by one rule, and that is that if you do turn the key hoping to kill someone in particular, that person will never end up as the victim. This monkey does not like being told what to do, just like Monkey Robbie Williams. But is this a hard and fast rule? Is the monkey just feeling particularly stubborn in certain cases? Or is it just another random sequence of events that we as humans are naturally inclined to ascribe a pattern to? Also, it seems to love people with daddy issues. I don't think this says anything about humanity's relationship with mortality, but it's worth mentioning. Now I'm going to get into the second part of the film where the characters are adults, and this is where major spoilers become fairly unavoidable. So avoid them now or shut up. Hal and Bill do not magically get better as they become fully formed white guys. Hal distances himself from everyone close to him for fear of accidentally causing their death. Not Bill, he distances himself from Bill because he's a dick. And this includes never seeing his 12-year-old son Petey, instead leaving him in the care of Frodo Baggins. After Hal becomes aware that the monkey has reignited his passion for drum solos, it doesn't take long before he realizes that Bill is responsible. Bill has been knocking off a huge percentage of their town via monkey, all in an effort to take revenge on Hal for monkey murdering their mom. Now, of course, he could have just been a normal angry white guy and murdered the subject of his anger himself, but he insists on utilizing the monkey, even at the cost of making the whole town look like a ketchup factory. Maybe it's the sense of detachment that comes from not having to get his own hands dirty. Maybe it's the poetic justice of using the toy that killed his mother to avenge her. But I think it's more likely an obsession with gaining control over this force of death that has been very clear about not wanting to be controlled. Bill is determined to twist the will, or lack of the monkey into a logic that he can understand and utilize. His latest fun little twist is he thinks if he can get Petey to turn the key, Hal will finally be the victim. Now, if you do subscribe to the idea that the person the key turner wants to die will never die, I guess it makes sense to try and get someone else to turn the key. Even though if you believe the key turner will also never die, getting someone else to do it will put yourself on the chopping block. But Bill wants to use Hal's son specifically, which doesn't correspond to any of the already pretty loose rules he's kicking around. He's really just throwing spaghetti at the wall, which is probably also what the FX team did to get some of those exploding headshots. Bill is really out here living his Final Destination fantasy, which is different from a Final Fantasy destination, which is a different place. I don't know where those guys live. It's probably a different place from where they are when they're hanging out with Mickey Mouse, right? If you're unfamiliar with the Final Destination series, the premise of each film is that a group of people survive a deadly disaster via a prophetic vision, and death, not caring for their cheating, methodically cuts each one of them down in gnarly ways in an attempt to balance its books. It's a pretty terrifying premise when you consider it, because you're not just trying to escape one killer that you can outsmart, overpower, or tire out. Once you're on death's list, you just kind of have to be afraid of everything until the hammer eventually falls. Or the plane, or the tree trunks on the back of that truck. Lots of things can fall. You might think anyone would want to avoid a world in which death is coming for you personally over a world where you are just one of many, many people who could be struck down. But there is some hope in these films, and that comes in the form of death's rules. Much of the plot of the Final Destination films revolve around the characters discovering loopholes that may save them from death's grasp. If someone dies before their turn, will death skip those that were supposed to come before? If you kill someone who wasn't wasn't on death's list will you gain the years they were supposed to have. So even though these characters are still looking at pretty crappy odds, they do have something that the characters in The Monkey don't have, and that is a modicum of control over their fate, the potential to find a way out of certain death, instead of just hoping it's not their number that comes up. That is what Bill craves, and in a way, isn't that hashtag relatable? As the monkey makes sure we know, everybody dies. But so much of our life is trying to outrun death, if not permanently, then making sure we are not next in line to bite the bullet. We invest in health, diet, and exercise to ensure our bodies don't betray us. We invest in safety and security to ensure other humans can't hurt us. Some people turn to religion and the belief that when our corporeal life ends, we'll simply move on to a different state of being. And none of these are bad, right? Even if they're not hard and fast solutions to mortality itself, it doesn't hurt. I think the danger, the Bill of it all, is when people get a little too cocky about how much control they have over their own lives and deaths, and start to see those with less control as lesser than. I think we've all come across the health and fitness nut who believes that just because they've managed to keep their own body in tip-top shape until now, anyone who experiences heart disease, obesity, chronic illness just has to work harder. And if they don't, then they deserve to suffer. How about any time a woman is attacked and the discussion turns to everything she did or didn't do to protect herself, instead of everything society hasn't done to protect women at large? When we try too hard to dissect all the reasons something bad, including death, happened to someone else, what we're really doing is comforting ourselves about how it can't happen to us. But it can. Anyone could become disabled tomorrow, including getting a terminal illness. Or you could find yourself in a dangerous, potentially deadly situation. So when you view others who are living life with worse odds than you as disposable, you might be making yourself feel more powerful, but you are actually further stacking the odds against yourself and ensuring you are even more powerless in the moment of your demise. What was I talking about? Oh, monkeys. So Bill dies, yeah. After taking out the majority of the town, his number finally comes up despite him having worked so hard to have dominion over Curious George, and the hammer, which here means a bowling ball, falls. It's implied that the monkey is just super over him and kills him on purpose, but it could also just be that he was never actually protected by being the key turner and his luck just ran out. In a way, it doesn't matter. He dead. Hal comes to terms with the fact that just as Bill couldn't beat the monkey into submission, he can't outrun it. So he decides to just keep it and not let the threat of its power control how he lives his life. It may one day be used against him or his family, or it might not. It's just random like that. Before I get into the film's denouement, let me hit you with how the Stephen King story ends because it tickles me. In this version, Hal and his family are similarly plagued by this monkey, and he decides to dump it into the deepest part of a river. After he does this, he feels, as he never has before, like he finally will never see this monkey again. The very end of the story is a newspaper article that states that a bunch of fish in this river just died, like a lot. So what does that mean? Does it mean that the monkey actually had no particular vendetta against Harry's family at all and was just using them as easy targets, and once they were in the lake, the poor halibut did the job just as well? Or could it mean not much at all, because Stephen King is pretty famously bad at knowing how to end stuff, because you just don't write over 200 short stories without cutting some corners sometimes. But if you think that's wild, let's finish up with the movie. In our last scene, you got Hal and Petey driving off with the monkey in the backseat, and a ghostly specter on a horse rides past. Actual death, like not an invisible force represented by the monkey, a dude who is death. And then a bunch of cheerleaders get their heads lobbed off by a truck. But the monkey doesn't seem to have done that. The monkey's just like chilling in the back seat, drumsticks at rest. So did the monkey ever have any power at all? Yes, almost definitely. It would be wild if he didn't. But I guess this human embodiment of death is saying that while all these characters were dealing with the monkey, It wasn't even the be-all, end-all of death. You can concern yourself with one possibility only for something completely different to take you out. So to paraphrase Hal, you might as well dance while you can. I like this movie. Go see it if you like gory comedies. Maybe don't see it if you're a stickler for realism in your horror. Tatiana Maslany is a standout. She's the dead mom. Let me know what you guys thought and if you have any other monkey-centric media you'd like me to cover. Those guys in the new season of The White Lotus, for example, they just kind of keep cutting to them hanging out in trees. What's their deal? Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and as always, have a delicious day.
Hey, we're the monkeys, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down.